Close your eyes and listen to that sound. Tick, tick, tick. It feels like the steady heartbeat of the universe, doesn't it? An unstoppable river flowing from the past into the future, carrying us all along. We assume this flow is the most fundamental part of reality, that time just is wrong. That ticking isn't out there in the cosmos. It is entirely a creation of your own biology. A beautiful, convincing hallucination. And once you see how the trick works, you will never look at a clock the same way again. To understand why, we have to look inside your own head, not metaphorically, but literally how your brain counts. Richard Feynman, the physicist, was obsessed with figuring this out. He wasn't satisfied with equations. He wanted to know how the machinery of the mind actually worked. So, he ran a little experiment on himself. He tried to count seconds. 1, 2, 3, steadily, like a metronome. But because he was Feynman, he couldn't just stop there. He wanted to see if he could do other things while counting. He found he could read a book, understand the words, and keep that perfect count going in the background. But the moment he tried to speak, the count collapsed. He couldn't say hello and count 4 at the same time. Why? Because for Feynman, time was a sound. He had a little tape recorder playing in his head, he counting out loud internally. To speak, he had to use the same part of his brain, so the systems crashed. But then he met John Tukey, a mathematician. Tukey was the opposite. He could talk all day while counting. He could recite poetry and still know exactly how many seconds had passed. But he couldn't read. If he looked at a line of text, his count fell apart. Why? Because Tukey didn't hear time. He saw it. He had a mental image of a ticker tape with numbers on it, scrolling by his mind's eye. To read, he had to use his visual center, and that blocked the ticker tape. Think about that. 2 geniuses sitting in the same room, experiencing the passing of a second in 2 completely different ways. One hears it, one sees it. So try it right now. Can you read this sentence and count to 10 in your head? Or do you have to stop reading to count? If you can read and count, you're a watcher. If you can't, you're a listener. This little experiment reveals something profound. We think time is this universal drumbeat that we all march to. But it's not. It's a construct. Your brain is building time for you, stitching it together from sounds or images, whatever tools it has lying around. And if the tools are different, the time is different. It's not a law of physics. It's a biological habit. And like any habit, it can be broken. But here is where your brain plays its biggest trick on you. You think you are experiencing this moment right now. You think you see my lips moving and hear my voice at the exact same instant. It feels seamless. It feels synchronized. But it's a lie. Physics tells us this is impossible. Light is incredibly fast. It hits your eyes almost instantly. Sound is sluggish. It crawls through the air. Technically, if you clap your hands, your eyes should see the collision before your ears hear the snap. Life should look like a badly dubbed kung fu movie, where the mouths move and the words come later. So why doesn't it? Because you have a frantic video editor living inside your skull. Your brain knows the signals are arriving at different times. It knows the audio track is lagging behind the video track. And it does something clever but manipulative. It holds on to the visual image. It pauses the reality feed just for a fraction of a second, waits for the sound to arrive, stitches them together to make them look simultaneous, and then projects the final cut into your consciousness. You are never actually living in the now. You are living on a tape delay. You are constantly watching a broadcast that is 80 milliseconds old. You're living in the past, just so the movie of your life feels smooth. This explains one of the greatest mysteries of human experience. You've heard monks or deep meditators say that when they go deep enough, time disappears. We usually dismiss that as poetry or metaphor, but look at the mechanics. When you meditate deeply, you cut off the sensory inputs. You close your eyes. You quiet the noise. And the editor in your brain suddenly has no footage to splice. There is no light to sync with sound. The delay mechanism stops running. The wait command is canceled. And without that constant neurological processing to create the illusion of flow, the sensation of time simply evaporates. It wasn't a spiritual magic trick. It was just the editing software shutting down. Now, let's leave the machinery of your brain and go somewhere much bigger. Let's look at the stars. Imagine you are standing in your backyard tonight, looking up at the Andromeda Galaxy. You know the story science tells us. You know that the light hitting your eye left that galaxy 2.5 million years ago. We are told that light is a traveler, a messenger that has crossed the dark, empty ocean of space for eons just to reach you. To us, sitting here on Earth, that journey is an epic history. While that light was traveling, humans evolved, civilizations rose and fell, and you were born. It feels like a long time, but that is only our truth. It is not the light's truth. If you could shrink yourself down and become that single particle of light, a photon, the story changes completely. And Einstein discovered a loophole in the fabric of reality. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. It's a sliding scale. If you move a little bit, time drags a little bit. But if you hit the cosmic speed limit, the speed of light, time doesn't just slow down, it stops. It hits zero. So, for that photon, there is no journey. There is no distance. There is no 2.5 million years. From the perspective of the light itself, the moment it is born in the nuclear furnace of a distant star and the moment it crashes into your retina are the exact same moment. It doesn't experience the void of space. It doesn't get bored waiting to arrive. It snaps its fingers, and it is here. Think about what that implies. It means that for light, the universe isn't a place where things happen one after another, and it is a place where everything is connected instantly. The beginning of the journey and the end of the journey are touching. To light, the universe is not a movie playing out frame by frame. It is a sculpture, a frozen, solid block of existence where distance is an illusion and time doesn't exist. And since everything you see, everything you perceive, is brought to you by light, you are constantly interacting with a timeless dimension. You are looking at a star, and the star is touching you back, instantly, across a bridge where time cannot pass. The universe is frozen in an eternal blink of an eye. We are just the ones slow enough to notice the waiting. So, if time doesn't flow for light, and if our brains are just making up the now, what does the universe really look like? Einstein gave us the answer, and it is disturbing. He called it the Block Universe. Imagine a loaf of bread, a long, rectangular loaf. This loaf represents the entire history of the universe. At one end, you have the Big Bang. At the other end, the end of everything. And somewhere in the middle, there is a slice called today. In this block, the past hasn't disappeared. It's just a slice of bread further back. The dinosaurs are still there, roaring and hunting, trapped forever in their slice. And the future? It's not a blank void waiting to be written. It's just the rest of the loaf, already baked, already sitting there, waiting for you to slide into it. This means your birth, your first kiss, and the moment you take your last breath, they all exist simultaneously in this block. You just can't see them all at once because you are trapped inside the loaf, moving slice by slice. I saw a comment down below that said, "If the future already exists, then I have no free will. Why bother trying?" It's a terrifying thought. If the movie is already on the reel, why act? But think of it this way. The loaf exists, yes, but the experience of the loaf is yours. You are the needle on the record player, The music is already pressed into the vinyl, but the song only comes alive when you play it. The song of your life is written, but the singing of it, that is happening right now, and it is the only thing that matters. But there is a problem with the Block Universe, a massive, glaring problem. If the past and the future are just different rooms in the same house, why can we only walk in one direction? Why can I remember breaking a glass yesterday, but I can't remember fixing it tomorrow? To understand this, we need to look at a broken egg. Imagine you drop an egg on the kitchen floor. Splat. Yolk, white, and shell fragments are scattered everywhere. It's a mess. Now, imagine playing a video of that event in backward. You see the yolk gather itself up, the shells snap back together perfectly, and the egg leap up into your hand. It looks ridiculous. It looks like magic. But here is the secret that keeps physicists up at night. In the fundamental laws of physics, there is nothing that forbids that egg from reassembling itself, and the atoms in the yolk could technically bounce in just the right way to fly back together. The equations of the universe work equally well forward and backward. So why doesn't it happen? Why have you never seen a shattered glass unbreak itself? It's not a rule, it's a probability. It is a game of numbers called entropy. Think of a cup of black coffee. You pour a spoonful of white milk into it. You watch the white swirls dance, jiggle, and spread out until the whole cup is a uniform light brown. The milk has mixed. Now, wait. Wait for the milk to unmix. Wait for all the white atoms to spontaneously decide to move to the left side of the cup and the black coffee atoms to the right. You could wait 1 trillion years and it will never happen. Not because it's impossible, but because there are only a few ways for the coffee to be separated and 1 trillion ways for it to be mixed. The universe always moves from order to disorder, simply because there are more ways to be messy than to be tidy. This drift, this slide from low probability, order, to high probability, chaos, is the arrow of time. It is the wind that pushes us forward. We tend to think of entropy as a bad thing. We think of it as decay, as things falling apart, as the universe slowly dying. But that's wrong. Entropy is the engine of your life. The only reason you can think, breathe, and digest food is that you are riding this wave of disorder. You are taking ordered energy, like food, and turning it into disordered heat. You are an entropy machine, and that is why you can't remember the future. The future is a state of higher entropy, a state of more information that hasn't been organized yet. Yet you are surfing on the wave of time, and you can only see the wake you leave behind, not the ocean in front of you. But what about the beginning of the loaf? If we trace this arrow of time all the way back, past the dinosaurs, past the formation of Earth, we eventually hit a wall. The Big Bang. People often ask, what happened before the Big Bang? It sounds like a reasonable question. If everything has a cause, if every Tuesday comes after a Monday, then surely there must be a Monday before the universe started. But Stephen Hawking looked at this question and said it's meaningless. Imagine you are an explorer walking south. You walk and walk until you reach the South Pole. You're standing on the very bottom of the world. Now someone asks you, please walk just one more step south. You can't. There is no south here. Every direction you turn is north. Asking what is south of the South Pole isn't a hard question. It's a wrong question, and it's a grammatical error in the language of geography. Hawking suggested that time works the same way. At the moment of the Big Bang, time doesn't just start like a race car leaving a starting line. It curves. It closes in on itself like the bottom of a globe. Space and time warp so intensely that they become a closed surface. So, asking what came before the Big Bang is exactly like asking, what is south of the South Pole? There is no before. There is no empty waiting room where God or the laws of physics were checking their watches. The Big Bang isn't just the beginning of stuff. It is the beginning of the possibility of when. Before that moment, when simply didn't exist. This brings us to the deepest illusion of all, the illusion of you versus it. Most of us walk around feeling like we are tiny little egos trapped inside a bag of skin. We feel like we came into this world, like a stranger walking into a crowded room. We look out at the universe as if it were a separate thing, a collection of dead rocks, gas, and empty space that we are just visiting for a few decades. But that is a hallucination. You did not come into this world, you came out of it. Think of a wave on the ocean. When you see a wave rise up, crash, and dissolve, you don't say, "Oh, look, a separate entity has arrived on top of the water." You know the wave is the ocean. It is just the ocean doing something specific, taking a specific shape for a brief moment. You are exactly the same, yet you are what the whole universe is doing at this place and this time. The amjan in your body were cooked in the hearts of stars billions of years ago. The energy firing in your neurons is the same energy that sparked the Big Bang. You are not a stranger here. You are the fabric of reality itself, woven into the shape of a human. So, here is the twist. When you sit in a park and look at a tree, you think there are two things: you, the observer, and the tree, the object. But that is just a grammatical convention. In reality, there is no apparition. The light from the sun hits the tree, bounces into your eye, excites your nerves, and creates an image in your brain. It is one continuous, unbroken chain of events. You are not looking at the universe. You are the universe, using a pair of human eyes to look at itself. And you are the way the cosmos knows it exists. And that feeling of loneliness, that sense that you are small and the world is big, it vanishes when you realize that you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. For centuries, we have been told a story that science and spirituality are enemies. We act as if they are fighting for custody of the truth. On one side, you have the physicist in a white lab coat, armed with chalk and equations, obsessed with proof. On the other, you have the sage in simple robes, eyes closed in meditation, obsessed with experience. We think they are speaking different languages, but if you listen closely to what they are actually saying, you realize they are describing the exact same thing. Take Erwin Schrödinger, for example. He is one of the fathers of quantum mechanics, a man of hard science. Yet, he was obsessed with the Upanishads, the ancient texts of India. Why? Because when he looked deep into the math of atoms, he found that the boundaries between things, between you and me, and between the observer and the observed, started to dissolve. The physicist looks at the Block Universe and says, "The past and future are illusions of perspective. Everything exists in a single frozen structure." The mystic sits in deep silence and says, "There is no past, there is no future. There is only the eternal now." Do you see? They are climbing the same mountain, just from different sides. When the physicist talks about the unified field where all particles are connected, it sounds suspiciously like the Taoist concept of the Tao, the flow that connects all living things. When Einstein says that time is a stubborn illusion, he is echoing the Buddhists who said that impermanence is a trick of the mind. This is not to say that religion explains quantum mechanics or that physics proves God. It is something more subtle, and it is the realization that when you push logic to its absolute limit, and when you push introspection to its absolute limit, you arrive at the same destination. A place where time stands still. A place where separation is a lie. A place where the universe is not a machine that you live in, but a living process that you are. So, those comments asking if this is science or philosophy, the answer is yes. It is both. The equation and the meditation are just two different ways of looking at the same beautiful, timeless truth. If the Block Universe is real, If the past doesn't vanish but simply sits there like the earlier slices of a loaf of bread, then we have to rethink the most painful part of the human experience: death. We are terrified of time because we see it as a thief. We think time takes things away from us. We think that as the seconds tick by, we are losing our lives, moment by moment. We think that when a loved one dies, they are gone, erased from existence, leaving only a fading echo in our memory. But look at the film reel again. When you are watching a movie and a character leaves the screen, or the scene changes from a sunny day to a dark night, you don't panic. You don't cry out that the sunny day has been destroyed. You know that the sunny day is still there, safely wound up on the earlier part of the reel. It hasn't vanished, that your attention has just moved past it. The physics of the Block Universe tells us that life is exactly like that film. The people you have lost, the grandmother who held your hand, the friend who made you laugh, the version of yourself that was a child running in the grass, they are not gone. They are not was. They are. They are still there at that specific coordinate in space-time, laughing and breathing and living eternally. Einstein himself found great comfort in this. When his best friend, Michel Besso, died, Einstein wrote a letter to Besso's family. He didn't offer empty platitudes. He wrote, "Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and in future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." He wasn't trying to be poetic. He was being literal. He knew that in the architecture of the cosmos, nothing is ever truly deleted. A life is not a fleeting candle that burns out and leaves darkness. A life is a statue. It is a solid, immutable structure that spans from birth to death, and once it is built, it stands forever in the four-dimensional landscape of the universe. We mourn because we are trapped in the now. We are sad because we cannot turn the car around and drive back to the coordinates where our loved ones are. We are stuck moving forward, but knowing that they are safe, that they are still existing just as vividly in their own now as you are in yours, brings a strange and quiet peace. Nothing is lost. The universe holds on to everything. So, listen to that sound again. Tick, tick, tick. It doesn't sound quite the same as it did at the start of this video, does it? It's no longer a prison warden counting down the seconds of your life. It is the sound of your own biology creating a rhythm, a steady beat that allows you to dance with the universe. We have peeled back the layers. We started with a simple clock and found that it was a lie. We looked into the brain and found a frantic video editor stitching reality together. We rode a beam of light and saw time stop completely. And finally, we stepped back to look at the Block Universe, a place where the past is never lost and the future is already waiting. But even after all of this, after all the physics, the entropy, and the philosophy, there is one massive piece of the puzzle missing. And if the universe is a frozen block of ice, unchanging and eternal, what is the thing moving through it? Physics can explain the block. It can explain the math of the film reel, but it cannot explain the light in the projector. It cannot explain you. What is this spotlight of awareness that illuminates one specific slice of the loaf and calls it today? Why does it feel like we are moving at all? Is consciousness just a chemical accident happening inside the block? Or is consciousness the thing that creates the block in the first place? We have figured out the stage, we have figured out the script, but we still don't know who the actor is. That is the final frontier. It is the place where physics ends and something else, something much stranger, begins. But that is a story for another time. I'll leave you to imagine what that might be.